What is going on, everybody? I'm DC5 James, and today I want to talk about the F15 BMW X5 and why it might be one of the most capable, luxurious, and honestly one of the most compelling used luxury SUVs on the market right now. Here in the States, you can pick one up for a fraction of what it costs new, but like any BMW, there are things that you absolutely need to know before you hand over your money for one. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything, the model range, the best engines to buy, the ones to avoid. We're going to talk about common problems and what to look for on a used example and how much you should actually be paying. So let's get right into it. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the background and the history. The F15 X5 is the third generation of the X5, and it was built from 2014 to 2018 here in the United States. BMW shifted the model year timing slightly for the American market. It replaced the E70, and it was built on a platform that was shared with the 7 Series and the 5 Series, which meant a big jump in refinement, technology, and overall sophistication. BMW also offered an X5M version alongside this generation, but that'll be a whole separate video. They also had a plug-in hybrid called the xDrive 40e, which arrived in the 2016 model year. Here in the US, BMW kept the engine lineup simpler than in Europe. There were no diesels, just gasoline and one hybrid, which actually makes your buying decision a lot more straightforward. So let's break down exactly what you got to choose from here. The base engine on this was BMW's N55, which was a turbocharged 3-liter inline-6 making 300 horsepower. It's paired with a 8-speed automatic and xDrive all-wheel drive standard. It's genuinely quick, smooth, and very capable. The N55 has some known issues that we'll get into, but it's widely understood, well supported by independent shops, and parts are very easy to find. It's a great entry point into the F15. Now, the xDrive 40e, which is the plug-in hybrid, was available from 2016 to 2018, and that comes with a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with an electric motor for a combined 308 horsepower. The electric only range is limited, only about 13 to 14 miles, so unless you're doing short daily commutes and charging regularly, you're mostly just driving a heavier, more complex 4-cylinder SUV on the highway. Now, with that being said, these can be great deals to use because a lot of buyers just overlook them. Just make sure the high voltage battery still holds a charge. A replacement is definitely expensive. Now let's talk about the xDrive 50i. Now the xDrive 50i has a twin turbo 4.4 liter N63 V8 and it makes 445 horsepower. This is an absolutely stunning engine. It's silky smooth, stupid fast, and it sounds incredible. These are genuinely special cars, but the catch is the N63 has a well-documented history of oil consumption and high-pressure fuel pump issues, especially on the early models. Post-2014, the N63 TU units are significantly improved. So if you're looking for an xDrive 50i, I would look for a 2016 or newer, as you're going to have a lot less problems than the 2014 to 2015. Now let's talk about the X5M, which is the F85. Now this is the full performance version. It's got a S63 twin turbo V8 with 567 horsepower. This is an incredible machine, but this is a specialist purchase. The running costs are extremely high. It needs very careful maintenance, and the values on these can be all over the place. If you're seriously considering one, make sure you get a pre-purchase inspection from a BMW M specialist. But this car deserves its own video. I'm not going to get into too much on these. So let's talk about the common problems. The F15 is a great car, but BMWs from this era have some well-known gremlins. Make sure you know these before you buy one. Now, in the xDrive 50i that has the N63 V8, oil consumption is a problem. The early N63 engines, roughly pre-2014, were notorious for burning oil at an alarming rate. BMW actually issued a customer care package to address it. The updated N63 TU in the 2014 and up cars is much better, but you still want to check the oil level on any used 50i and ask about consumption history. If the seller doesn't know, that's a potential red flag. Now, the M55 in the xDrive 35i model is a straight 6, and it tends to develop oil leaks over time, particularly from the valve cover gasket and the oil filter housing gasket. These are very common, and they're not crazy expensive to fix, but factor them into your negotiation if you spot any leaking oil in the engine bay. Another one to look out for is the cooling system. BMW uses a lot of plastic in their cooling systems, from the water pumps, thermostats, expansion tanks, and these degrade with age and heat cycles. On any F15 over 80,000 miles, make sure you budget for a cooling system refresh if it hasn't been done already. A surprise coolant failure is the last thing you want and can definitely leave you stranded. Also, let's talk about the air suspension. The optional dynamic damper control and air suspension is excellent when it's working, but air spring failure and compressor wear are real concerns on higher mileage cars. Check that all four corners sit level, and if possible, leave the car sitting overnight to confirm it doesn't sag. Air suspension repairs can run between $1,500 to $3,000 or more at a dealer. Now, another big one on the N55 and N63 engines is the high pressure fuel pump. These are definitely known for failure, which can cause rough running or hesitation. You could also feel stumbling under hard acceleration. Parts and labor aren't cheap on these, but most independent BMW shops deal with this pretty regularly, so they should be familiar. So you found the car you're interested in, and here's exactly what to do before you commit. Run a Carfax or auto check report, check for any accidents, title issues, flood damage, any odometer discrepancies. You also want to get a full service history as well, ideally from a BMW dealer or a reputable independent shop. If there's no records, that could be a deal breaker on these. If possible, do a cold start test. Start the car, listen for any rattles or rough running before the engine warms up. If the car has an air suspension, make sure all four corners sit level. Check it again after a test drive and drive it hard. Get on the highway, test the transmission through all the gears, listen for driveline clunks or shudders. Check all the electronics, every button, screen, camera, sensor, sunroof, and heating, cooling function. Also check for rust, especially if you live in any parts of the country where they salt the roads. Check the wheel arches, rocker panels, underneath. Make sure there's no rust damage. And as I always tell people in my videos, get a pre-purchase inspection. If you're spending 20 grand or more on a used BMW, spend the extra $150 on an independent BMW pre-purchase inspection. So many people buy cars and then bring it to the mechanic after. It really makes no sense. You need to get it done before you buy the car. If a seller has a problem with you getting a pre-purchase inspection, just walk away because obviously there's a problem. So if you've watched this whole video and you're not sure exactly which one you should buy, for most people, I'd say start with the 2016 or 2017 35i in a well-optioned trim, premium package, driver assistance, cold weather package. I personally have a 2017 35i and I have about 200,000 miles on it now, and I absolutely love it. One of my favorite features on these is the heads-up display. I never really had it on a car before this, and now that I have it, I absolutely love it. So if you can find one with that, I highly recommend it. But with the 35i, you get the refined N55 engine, you get updated iDrive 6 infotainment system with wireless CarPlay, which is absolutely amazing. You get a more modern look and you avoid the early production teething issues. If you can, try to keep the mileage under 80,000 and make sure there's documented service history. Now, if you want the V8 experience, and honestly, it's hard to go back once you've driven one, go for a 2016 or newer 50i. The N63 TU engine is much stronger, more reliable than the earlier models, and these drive like nothing else at this price point. Budget accordingly for running costs, and like I said earlier, get that PPI done. Now, the 40e hybrid is worth considering if you have a short daily commute and a place to charge. You can often find these well under market value because buyers often overlook them, but verify the battery health first because that's a huge concern. You don't want to buy one of these and find out that the battery is toast and you got to spend a lot of money to replace it. Now, here's what I'd avoid. I'd avoid any early 2014 50i models with no documented oil consumption history. I'd also avoid any air suspension car that sits uneven and hasn't been serviced. And also anything without service records that's over 70,000 miles. So there you have it. The BMW X5 is a seriously impressive used vehicle. I mean, it was a $60,000 to $80,000 SUV when it was new, and you can pick one up today for a fraction of that. It drives beautifully, it's packed with tech, it's practical as a family hauler, and it still looks amazing. Do your research, get a proper inspection, and buy the best maintained example that you can find, and you'll have an amazing luxury SUV for a great price. So if this video helped you out, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I put out buyer's guides all the time. I put new automotive content out every week. And if you have any questions about a specific car you're looking at or any questions at all, drop them in the comments. I try to reply to every comment I get. Until next time, I'm DC5 James, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.